Dedolight Lightstream. This is the most complete system in the world of reflected light. In the following, we will describe the many different tools and practices involved, and then we'll go into more details. There are reflectors. We'll talk about dedicated parallel beam systems, including the amazing capability of creating the illusion of natural light. This I call infinity lighting. We will also describe parallel beam systems that are unique and functional with all of our focusing lights, and how we're able to maximize this parallel beam system to control and shape and find an incredible variety for effective lighting. We will explain the three separate families of the Dedolight Lightstream system, namely Dedolight Lightstream for drama production and TV series, Dedolight Lightstream LITE, and Dedolight Lightstream Tabletop. Along those lines, we also want to point out that we regard ourselves being in the absolute lead regarding ecology and economy, masters of green tech in the media world. We want to talk about novelties. The Reflector, the amazingly variable reflector, also creating the possibility, the so-called river of light. We will introduce the Dedolight Flag system, which eliminates parasitic light, otherwise inescapable in the work with the reflected light, as a flag reflector combo, which represents the missing link between hard and soft light and offers new and amazing potential. Now, number one, reflectors. Reflectors as such are absolutely not new. They have been used ever since the beginning of image creation in many different ways and shapes. The Dedolight Lightstream reflector system offers 5 different surfaces in 5 different characters and 5 different sizes. According to their numbers, they have the following functions. Number 1 is working somewhat like a mirror, redirecting the light without changing the character nor the spread angle. Number 2 is very effective, but at the same time it spreads the exit angle to about 13 degrees. Number 3 goes one step further, redirecting the light but spreading it to about 30-degree angle. Number 4 is the widest and softest, covering about a 90-degree exit angle. Number 5, though, is a very special character, since it allows to shape the light in a singular direction. The effect that can be varied by the distance of the light fixture to the reflector, and by the focusing position of the light, and whether the light is equipped with a parallel beam intensifier or not. So that shows differences in the edge of the lit area, distinct or flowing. All of these reflectors exist in 5 different sizes. The smallest one is 7 by 10 centimeter, following the 12 by 15, 25 by 25, and 50 by 50, and even 1 by 1 meter. All of the ones up to the 50 by 50 have edges that are protected with plastic corners for safety. Number 2, motorization of the reflectors. All of the Dedolight Lightstream reflectors can be motor controlled from the big 1 by 1 meter reflector all the way down to the smallest ones. Control of these motors can be done by manual control with something like a joystick, where the control provides the potential of switching the control up to 2 different reflectors. Also, the reflector motors can be controlled by DMX signals, and they can also be expanded to remote wireless control. So you don't ever have to climb up the ladder again to adjust the reflector. You can do it from the floor. Number 3, parallel beam lights. Now, such parallel beam lights in principle are not really new. They have been known long time ago as searchlights, before the days of radar. They were used to spot bombers. Such searchlights have also been employed in entertainment and for effects. There are the known Molar beam lights. There were also the Xenotech lights, and the lights from my friend Leonard Pincus from LP Associates. Now, if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you may have seen one of Leonard Pincott's lights shining from the top of the Luxor Hotel. As a complete new tool, we've created the PB70, another parallel beam light with a 70 centimeter front diameter, and we've taken great care in the design of this light to make its beam as homogeneous in the beam as possible. As well as building a special lamp, the light source, we're proud that this light offers perfect color spectrum as opposed to everything we've known so far from metal halide lighting in the past, the so-called HMI. This light can also, if you want to, can be focused a little bit for special purposes. But usually it works with a 2-degree exit angle. So starting from a 5-meter distance, it turns into a pretty much homogeneous light. This we've achieved by fine-tuning the shading rings in the light, as well as modifying the lamp, the light source. This light provides enormous output, as well as economic and ecological values. This light works with a 1200 watt power source and can thus be fed from grandmother's kitchen. But at a distance of 20 meters, 60 feet, its output is 50% higher than a 9 kilowatt HMI light in its spot position. The main feature of this light, however, is that it does something that sounds absolutely unbelievable. The light does not derive from the light fixture itself, but from a so-called virtual light source, about 20 meters, 60 feet behind the light. Now, how can we understand this? We elongate the outer rays of the beam, elongate them backwards, and where these rays meet and cross, that's where the light actually originates from. This allows us to produce the illusion of a light that is a very far distance, and we call it infinity lighting. Now, in the world of virtual production, this has a very high value. If then, in the virtual studio, the intention is to bring nature into the studio. If today we want to show the Sahara Desert or the beach of Rio de Janeiro, and to light this scene with conventional lighting doesn't really give the real feeling. Whilst with our light, seemingly, the light originates from outside the studio. although the light fixture itself is placed inside the studio. This is why it was chosen for this particular capacity for the illusion of sunlight, natural light, which we call infinity lighting. If we now, in addition, direct this parallel beam into reflectors, preferably hard reflectors, number one, we again elongate the travel of the light and enhance and multiply the infinity function. We're proud that this light now even has a bigger companion with 2.5 kilowatt, offering double the light output. Since these are daylight lights, they can be tuned with gel filters, which can be placed directly on the front of the light. There's not much high heat to melt such a filter or make it change its shape. Therefore, with filters over the full surface of the front, we can create the effect of an evening sun or any other kind of lighting character. If such lights are used outdoors and possibly directed straight up to shine into a reflector to redirect the light into the interior of the building, then creating the illusion of a sun shining into the room from very far away, there's no danger for the light itself to be disturbed by rain, heat, snow, or anything. It can work unattended. The actual effect of what I call infinity lighting is what we seem to defy the square law, the so-called square law. Now that is something that everybody has learned in school. The square law means that at double the distance, we only have 1/4 of the light. But in relationship to the actual position of our light, this particular one, the instrument itself, this law is not holding true anymore. Let's measure, for example, 5-meter distance from the light. We arrive at about 100,000 lux or a little more. When we now double the distance, we should have 1/4 of the light. But amazingly enough, we don't have 25,000 lux, as we would expect, but 68,000. And thus, we seem to defeat the square law. This means also that our talent, our actors, can move towards a window or towards the seeming light source without encountering the ill effects of the square law. We come much closer to natural light from a very far distance. Of course, you can reflect light from other lighting tools. For example, a candle, or you can reflect natural light, or pretty much anything. But you can also do it with a Dedolight focusing light, many of which offer a much higher degree of focusing than any other light ever before. Now let me give you an example of what we've been able to achieve. We have a 400 watt light that was, I'm grateful, awarded by the Oscar Committee of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. This light works with what we call a triple zoom focus system that achieves a focus range of 1 to 20. Much more effective than anything else. In its spot position, this light now shows an exit angle of 4 degrees. And now comes the seeming miracle. We add more optics in front. and we refocus the light into its flood position. And again, we achieve another 4-degree angle. So, before we had 4, now we have 4 degree. But now we gain, believe it or not, 500% more light output. Sounds absolutely unbelievable. So come, bring your own light meter, test it. That again allows us, with smaller lighting instruments, to achieve the incredible in parallel beam lighting, covering huge distances with much higher efficiency. And in no way are we increasing the electricity bill by adding these extra unbelievable 500%. To some extent, we can also use the other parallel beam optics that we've developed for all of our focusing lights. Believe it or not, 50 different focusing Dedolights, all of which can be equipped with a parallel beam intensifier, creating such unbelievable output and character. When the two versions, 1.2K and 2.5K of the PB70, are the ideal tools for the high-class drama production, we can also serve the small team that doesn't work with the big trucks and the diesel generators. And we can use the above-mentioned 400-watt light or my focusing 1200-watt light and equip any of those with a parallel beam intensifier to multiply the light output many times, and now direct this parallel beam at an entire row of reflectors. Let us assume we've lined up behind each other other 4 different reflectors, same number, same reflex quality, for example in the size 50 by 50 centimeter, and all of those are aligned and adjusted at the same angle. And when we now direct the beam at this row of reflectors, we want to make sure that we distribute this evenly. Not such an easy task, because the first reflector is closer, the last one is further away. So we have to make a little bit injustice to how we split the birthday cake. The first reflector needs to get less light, and the last one get the biggest piece of the cake, so that they all create the same intensity of a beam, whether they're near or far. Takes a little time to adjust this if you want to make it perfect, but now we create an entire row of parallel beams, and again we create the illusion of infinity lighting, but this time in grandmother's kitchen, in the most confined space. A miracle. I've not only shot major productions myself in early days, where I, for example, was working with 60 electricians and many huge lights, tons of cables, diesel generators. But I've also shot under the most stringent conditions in faraway countries with minimal equipment. Thus, I was motivated to develop the second part of the family, the so-called Lightstream LITE system. Here again we create something unbelievable. We work with reflectors that are pretty much as light as a piece of paper, with a hot shoe mount on the back, and in a bag which is smaller than most ladies' handbags. You can now place 8, 10, 12, 15 reflectors or more, and also relevant ingenious holding and mounting devices. And now you can use one single light equipped with the Parallel Beam Intensifier, multiplying the output 5 times or even up to 8 times. Thus, you can activate with one such light a group of 5 reflectors closely placed to each other so that they maximize the efficiency of the beam, and in turn those will light further reflectors to light the entire scene, including the background. In my mind, this is the epitome of ecology and economy and ease of work. Now, what I really like is the amazing holding device that I call the Quintopus. That's one little easy-to-go clamp that can hold 5 movable arms to hold 5 reflectors at the same time, and then we address all the other reflectors. So we use minimal mounting devices, minimal baggage to create whatever we like, even including extra accents, including a tiny little reflector in the whole line of setup. Thus, this entire package can be incredibly small, lightweight, and even from a very small battery, you can run it for several hours to light a 1 or 2 people scene effectively. Now, the third part of the Dedolight Lightstream family is Dedolight Lightstream Tabletop, a system where in one single hard case you find 15 different reflectors in the lid, some of those beyond the range of what you've experienced so far with the larger Dedolight systems. Some of them have a special hammered surface, and some of them are copies of the Dedolight Eflect system. This case contains 2 of the unbelievably small LED lights, called Litzilla. Again, ideal to activate a multitude of reflectors, but at the same time, these lights also can be equipped with other front-end attachments, like a projection attachment with interchangeable projection lenses, or a framing shutter projection attachment for razor-sharp effect lighting, and even for gentle, unnoticeable effects. When used with a magic accent filter that we call eye filter. Now, this filter, for example, was used by a man called Tom Stern, the one who lit all the Clint Eastwood films and then shot $1 Million Baby and many others. He used it on a movie with the actress Susan Sarandon to create an unnoticeable eye effect. We also called it Julio's eyes because Julio Macat, Home Alone and those movies, used it, and so in the beginning we even called it the Macat glass. Unnoticeable effects that can be very helpful and amazing and allow us to do the magic of doing intricate lighting, and nobody knows what you've done, how you've achieved it, how you made it look attractive. So you open a bag of incredible capability and versatility, which you can expand if you want by something that is also unheard of. An asymmetric projection device. Now, I love to create background projections like we have right here now. And we can do that with gobos, we can do it with effect filters, or we can even do it with printouts of any kind of image on a gel to create any kind of background. But often those projections don't come towards the front of our talent and show on its face. So you have to put the lighting instrument at an angle and light, let's say, from a 45-degree angle, and thus the projection will be distorted, and also the far end cannot be in the same focus as the near end, and for that we've created the movable image plane that photographers know from their large view cameras. But still, even when we correct the focus, and even we pre-correct the distortion by putting in Photoshop some negative keystoning at first, which only takes minutes, the far end gets less light than the near end. Except with this little ingenious projection attachment, you can do something unheard of. We can move the projection lens in its axis, and thus we create asymmetric light distribution. So the far end gets as much light as the near end, and everything looks more natural, more believable. Okay. Now we come to what we call the Dedolight Lightstream Flag system. Another unique addition to the world of reflected light. When we light a reflector with a beam light or with anything else, there's a good chance that there will be some light passing by the reflector, over the top, underneath, left and right. Now if we use only one reflector and we're shooting in a studio with black walls, that may get by unnoticed. But in our system we use many reflectors, and there's a great chance, a great possibility that we create unwanted parasitic light that was meant to hit a reflector, but unfortunately it went by the reflector, left, right, up, down, and now we have to call an army of people. For each reflector we need 4 extra people to run in with C-stands and flags to eliminate the parasitic light on top, on bottom, on left and on right. And all of a sudden the one stand which holds the reflector turns into 5 stands. And if we use 10, 15, 20 reflectors, we create an entire forest of lighting stands. And some people may not like that. So here we found a way to put everything on the very same single stand. The reflector and the flag system. Now, we have 2 kinds. We have square flags that allow us, when we want to use a group of reflectors, like 4 reflectors or even 5 with one in the center, smaller one. And still, again, on a single stand, we can put the 4 flags and the 4 reflectors, and each reflector can be addressed any which way we want, because they're all mounted on flexible arms to reach out to other reflectors over there, to light the entire scene effectively. Now, when we guide the light from this first group of reflectors, for example, onto further reflectors, they could be single reflectors, usually are. So here we eliminate the parasitic light again with a round flag that again is attached to the reflector, and the reflector still can be angled any which way you want, or even slid up, down, not centric, any which way you want or need. And then comes another miracle. When you light a portrait of a person with reflectors, you may want hard effects, but sometimes you want the light to be gentle, flowing. And then your reflectors will wind up being very close to that person. Could look beautiful. But you go then to the medium shot or to the long shot, and everything in the whole picture is full of reflectors. So you would need to move the reflectors further away from your talent, but that turns the soft light into hard light. And that may not be exactly what you want to achieve. So in order to bridge this inherent difficulty, especially when you work with more cameras simultaneously and you want to create a setup that can be used for close-up, medium and wide shot at the same time, now you can cover the round flag, the big black flag around the reflector, with some kind of dressing. So with the zipper, you put on a surface that with one device could be white or silver or gold or soft gold. So all of a sudden, you create a much larger reflector, and you also create something else. This reminds me that many years ago, when people looked at my PanAura soft lights, they were lovely, they were nice, but some photographers came with the idea and said, can't you put in the center of the soft light a focusing light? And I had no idea how to do that. Now today, this is exactly what we do. In the middle of this large reflector that we just created, we have the original reflector, and that can be used and set with 5 different surfaces. So, in a way, we have the focusing light in the center and the soft light around it. We can't focus continuously, but in 4 or 5 steps. And that offers new creative choices and miracles. And now, we can also do something else. If, for example, the light source that we use is a daylight, LED, HMI, whatever, then we can cover the flag around the reflector with a gold or soft gold surface and thus warm up the color temperature. Because this is another special aspect when in the same image you use different color temperatures. Now our eyes can adjust to any color temperature, so can all the modern cameras. But when we use different color temperatures in the same image, we can influence the appearance and the expression and the emotions of the character. It's an interesting experiment that for some of us are worthwhile to play with. So, we've shown such effects with the PanAura soft lights, and there we seem to defeat the square law, because in close proximity between the soft light and the talent, we seem to defeat the square law to some extent. But once the distance between the talent and the soft light is bigger than 2 times the diameter of the soft light, the square law will bite you again. In other words, any soft light at a huge distance turns into a very hard light. The obvious example is the sun, huge, 140,000 kilometers diameter, but when there is no cloud, nobody would call this a soft light, because now you get razor-sharp shadows. So now, what we're trying to do is to define the bridges between hard light and soft light and the creative advantages that we can find with this strange mixture of systems. We live in a world that is not all reality. There's a lot of illusion involved. And for illusion, you need some helpers. Even with the super modern cameras that are miraculous, without light, without a little light, there's nothing. But we should not forget the big brother of light, the shadow. Because the shadow is capable of conveying messages, emotions, sometimes in an even stronger way than the light. And if you want to learn how to control the shadow, how to ride the shadow, we need to control the light. And that's what we, with our tools and systems, are all about. Thank you. In the world of reflected light, the Dedolight Lightstream system is the most complete and the most versatile, and it offers the greatest variety for the creative mind. Today, we talk about one expansion and one addition to the Eflect. The word means effect and reflective light combined. It allows to create an incredible variety of effects. Eflect. It can be the most gentle accent, like a floating feather in the background, like a butterfly that takes rest for a little while. And it can go even to an explosion of effects on the background, or sometimes you even want it on the talent. Today, we're adding one more tool to the range of Eflect. It could be called the Giganto Eflect, a huge surface that allows you, with very few of these devices, if you want to, light up and transform the entire studio with effects that some of them can be compared to the sun droplets that fall through a leaf tree. Others are floating, gentle transitions, like the flowers floating on a lake in a Monet painting in the Musée Marmottan in Paris. Or it can come to a complete explosion of effects, like the Aurora Borealis, for which people travel a long way to experience it once in their lifetime. You can create this now in your own studio, anytime, with an even greater variety than the nature already provides. So that's the new addition, the very large Eflect. The entire range starts with the smallest one that you can use as an accent on an object, on a person, on a background, to the more noticeable effects, creating an interesting background, or like we can show here in the studio, light the entire studio all the way around with effects that are seemingly unbelievable. And in addition, if you want to, you can vary these effects by changing the distance of the lighting instrument to the Eflect, or by focusing the light, or by adding the magic parallel beam adapter to the light. So you can explore an incredible variety of effects. Also, we've had for a long time the relatively stupid looking filters. When you look at them at first sight, they look very simple. But amazingly, when you put them on the light, they transform the world of images in a magic way, way beyond what you believe when you look at that dual color filter. And also now we're adding 2 more reflective surfaces that also convey a magic transformation. We call them tropical blue, and the other one is tropical orange. But the effects that you reach are way beyond what the word describes. They show an incredible variety of effects in colors and unexpected performance. Though if you're not interested in creating images to convey messages or show your creative talents or do the magic additions to what you've experienced so far, then my advice would be maybe look for a job with the post office, which may be more suitable for you. But for the creative mind, this opens the gateway to magic fairy tale performance and unnoticeable little accents that just enrich your image, transform it, help your viewer to focus on the message that you really want to convey. Because that's what we are. Illusionists, magicians, to create, convey, transmit messages. Thank you.